The Grind, a Minnesota sports podcast.
July 31st, 2025. The Minnesota sports scene. It really epitomized the name of this podcast. The Lynx lose to the Indiana Fever in the Commissioner's Cup game without Caitlin Clark, and Red Panda falls during her halftime performance. The Minnesota Twins get shut out versus the Miami Marlins in Royce Lewis's first game back from rehab. He has 50% of the team's hits. But the bigger problem was that Royce Lewis only had one hit, and Willie Castro had the other. This is a Minnesota sports podcast, and there is no doubt it is a grind to be a Minnesota sports fan. It's been 12,302 days since the Minnesota Twins hung up and won that World Series in 1991 when Jack Morris went 10 innings in a complete 1-0 shutout against the Atlanta Braves. All right, let's talk about Minnesota sports. But first, I need to tell you about 5-Star Bath Solutions of Minneapolis, because they transformed our bathroom in 48 hours. And it was nothing short of incredible. And that's why I'm telling you about 5-Star Bath Solutions of Minneapolis, because I want you to have the same convenience and the same product as we got. They came in, gave us a free consultation, gave us a plan, gave us a list of selections, and then a few weeks later, remodeled our bathroom in 48 hours. A full bathroom. We're talking about a new floor, a new shower, a new surround, a new vanity countertop, sink, mirror. We went from 1 sink to 2 sinks, which was our favorite bathroom feature. Do not wait 8 weeks for a bathroom project to get done, where you have to cram into your teeny tiny bathroom in your house. 5-Star Bath Solutions of Minneapolis will get it done in 48 hours. How could you ask for anything better? With free consultations and affordable payment plans, 5-Star Bath Solutions of Minneapolis is the way to go. Contact them today, get your free consultation, and like us, you'll probably sign that dotted line because they are incredible. Okay. I talked about the depressing day that was July 1st for Minnesota sports fans. And this podcast is very clear that nothing short of winning the whole damn thing is a failure. Because you don't look back on seasons when you don't win the Super Bowl and say, that was a successful year. You can look back on plays. You can look back on players that make plays and say, oh, I loved Randy Moss in 98. I loved Brett Favre in 2009. I loved Case Keenum to Stephon Diggs in 2017. But those seasons in and of itself were failures because the Minnesota sports team that was competing to win a championship did not win the championship. Do you think Patrick Mahomes is looking back at last season and saying it was a successful season when his team lost the Super Bowl? The answer is no. So why should Minnesota Vikings fans look back on last season when they lost against the Los Angeles Rams and say that was a successful season? When you're 14-3 and then you lose in the first round against the Los Angeles Rams in Arizona, that is a failure, a catastrophic failure. So this podcast sets the standard differently than any other show that you may ever hear. Because as much as people want to clap hands and give away consolation trophies to a team that won a playoff game or made it into the playoffs or won the NFC North, or even defeated the Packers and throwing Sam Darnold up on their shoulders like they won something meaningful, this podcast takes a different approach. Nothing or anything short of a championship is a failure. The Minnesota Vikings are going all in for that championship in 2025-26. They've added players to their offensive line, Will Fries and Ryan Kelly. They've added players on their defensive line, Jonathan Allen and Javon Hargrave, while maintaining their corner that had a lot of interceptions last year, Byron Murphy Jr. And when you look at championship teams are built in the trenches. Just take a look at the Eagles last year. Their tush-push play is a play that is a result of their ability to win in the trenches. Their defensive line is filled with players that can win in the trenches. And the Minnesota Vikings have developed their roster through free agency this past offseason, through the trenches, because they understand that that is what makes a Super Bowl roster. However, there is one concern the Minnesota Vikings must understand, centered around JJ McCarthy, who is going to start for his first time in his NFL career. Second year technically, but really, let's call it what it is. This upcoming season will basically be his rookie season in the NFL. And the one concern the Vikings must have before we even see McCarthy play significant regular season snaps is his age. McCarthy, although he speaks at the podium like a 30-year-old NFL veteran, he is only 22 years old. And he is projected to be the youngest NFL starting quarterback next season. Aaron Rodgers is the oldest at 41. Joe Flacco at 40. Matthew Stafford, 37. Russell Wilson, 36. Dak Prescott, 32. And then you get down to the Vikings. McCarthy, 22 years old. You got a list of players at 23. Bo Nix, Caleb Williams. There's another handful of players in that list. Bryce Young. Bryce Young? No, he's 24. I do not recognize some of these quarterbacks because Jaden Daniels is 24. I recognize Bo Nix and Caleb Williams. I do not recognize some of these others. Who was the first round pick in the NFL draft this year? The guy that went to the Tennessee Titans. Cam Ward. I bet some of those players are Cam Ward. I bet some of those players are rookies coming into the year. So a rookie coming into the season next year was going to be older than McCarthy. And the reason why McCarthy's age should be a concern for the Vikings is that there has not been a quarterback in the NFL to win a Super Bowl at 23 years old since the Pittsburgh Steelers did it with Ben Roethlisberger. McCarthy is 22 years old right now, but he will be 23 by the time the Super Bowl is played in February because his birthday is January 20th. According to Google AI, which I love, you type in a little Google question and they pop up a bunch of different answers with Google AI. It's amazing. Ben Roethlisberger is the youngest quarterback to ever win the Super Bowl at 23 years old. And he's an old 23. His birthday was in May, so he was almost 24. McCarthy is a young 23. He's going to be 23 for like 2 weeks. It was also Big Ben's second year starting in the NFL So he had already a year of experience. So if you combine the two factors for the Minnesota Vikings quarterback room this season, if the Vikings want to compete for a Super Bowl in JJ McCarthy's first year starting, they will have to do something that's never been done in NFL history. McCarthy would have to be the youngest quarterback starting in NFL history to win the Super Bowl, and it will also have to be his first year starting. So you combine those two elements for the Vikings this season, and it almost feels like an impossible task because a first-time starting 23-year-old quarterback has never won a Super Bowl. And to take it a step further, I looked up the ages of the last 10 Super Bowl champions that played quarterback. Peyton Manning, 2015, was 39 years old. Tom Brady, 2016, 39 years old. Nick Foles, 2017, 29 years old. Tom Brady, 2018, 41 years old. Patrick Mahomes, 2019, 24 years old. Tom Brady, 2020, 43. Matthew Stafford, 2021, 33. Mahomes again, 27. Mahomes again, 28. Jalen Hurts, 26. So the average age of a Super Bowl winning QB the last 10 years is 33 years old. Now, I understand that you have to factor in the ages of Tom Brady winning at 41 and Tom Brady at 39 and Tom Brady at 43 and Peyton Manning at 39. Those numbers influence this chart dramatically because they were late 30s, early 40s to win a Super Bowl. But you take those players out of the equation, and the average is still much higher than McCarthy's 23 years old. Jalen Hurts, 26. Patrick Mahomes, 28. Patrick Mahomes, 27. Matthew Stafford, 33. Patrick Mahomes, 24. So you take in that average age, and that average age is probably around 27, 28 years old. And that's the last 5 to 6 years of Super Bowl winning quarterbacks. The last 10 years, the average was 33 years old. That is 10 years older than JJ McCarthy will be on Super Bowl Sunday. To combine McCarthy's age, 23 in January, and his inexperience, first-year starter for the Vikings, it almost seems impossible for the Vikings to overcome those odds in the 2025-26 season. And the reason why it feels impossible is because you look at Super Bowl winning quarterbacks and you're looking at the elite players in the league. Mahomes, Hurts, the last 10 years, besides Nick Foles, and I guess an aging Peyton Manning, 8 out of the last 10 years, the quarterback has never been a first-year starter, and the quarterback has always been an elite quarterback. That does not shape well in the odds for the Vikings, because even if you think McCarthy will be a great quarterback for the Vikings in his first year, let's all be realistic about it. He's not going to be a top 5 quarterback in his first year. Even if you think he will be better or just as good as Sam Darnold was last year, he is still not Mahomes or Hurts or Stafford. And if you expect McCarthy to be what Sam Darnold was last year, that is asking a lot of McCarthy. To expect McCarthy to throw 35 touchdowns and 12 interceptions and be in the rearview mirror of the MVP categories and MVP candidate within the quarterback position, that is asking a lot from McCarthy. I don't expect him to be what Sam Darnold was for the Vikings last season, because I think that is an unfair expectation. Now, the problem with this whole situation is that the Minnesota Vikings are ready to win a Super Bowl now. They're ready to win a Super Bowl now. They brought in the Javon Hargrave and the Jonathan Allen and the Will Fries and the Ryan Kellys. And the offensive line is fairly young enough. Like, there's some young talent on the offensive line that will last a few years, and those guys are signed for a few years. But Jonathan Allen, the trenches within the Vikings defensive line, he's 30 years old, coming off a major injury. Jonathan Hargrave, he's had injury history throughout his career. He's 32 years old. So it's not like the trenches within the Vikings defensive line are built to withstand multiple seasons. The Vikings roster is in win now Super Bowl mode. And now you're going to ask your first time starting 22-year-old quarterback that turns 23 in January to take a Super Bowl ready roster all the way to the Super Bowl and win it? I don't buy it. In a division that's still tough, arguably the toughest division in football, I don't buy it. I would say the Minnesota Vikings Super Bowl window is not open this season, but it could potentially be open the following year when McCarthy has NFL regular season experience, and he will start the year at 23 and will become a 24-year-old when the Super Bowl begins in February. So my overall arcing point is that there is a concern the Vikings should recognize, and Vikings fans should recognize, so that we can place our expectations in a rightful category, in a rightful place. There's always next year. There's always the year after next year. The Vikings are not winning the Super Bowl this season. They will not compete for the Super Bowl this season, because JJ McCarthy will hold them back. So that's the podcast for the day. Thank you for watching and listening. Make sure you hit that subscribe button and check out 5-Star Bath Solutions of Minneapolis if you want your bathroom remodel done right and done quick. It's convenient, it's efficient, it's beautiful. 5-Star Bath Solutions of Minneapolis. All right, everyone. Thank you for watching and take care.